Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Makita's 36 volt LXT reciprocating saw. That's right, 36 volts on their LXT platform means they use two batteries. So we're going to go over this saw, top to bottom, put it on our test track, get some numbers, stick with us. Alright y'all, so Makita makes a lot of tools and reciprocating saws are no exception. Almost every tool brand has to have reciprocating saws, okay? I mean, you can't really be a tool brand without one. So anyways, the point is that Makita has a lot of them, a lot of reciprocating saws. They got corded, cordless, brushed, brushless, compact, all kinds of stuff. But this one right here is their 36 volt model, and that one is, model number is XRJ06, okay? So this 36 volt saw is on their LXT platform, means it uses two LXT batteries in series to get that 36 volts, okay? So just to give you quick math here, LXT is their 18 volt platform, right? So if you put two of those batteries in series, it gets 36 volts. If you put the battery, you really want to match up the same size batteries and stuff like that in order to get the best performance. So if you put two 18 volt LXT battery, two 5 amp hour LXT batteries in series, you'll get pretty much this tool is one 36 volt 5 amp hour battery, okay? People on the internet do all kinds of weird math and stuff, and it's all weird. But anyways, the point is that if you put batteries in series, the amp hours pretty much stay the same, okay? That's what you gotta learn here. Anyways, the point is that this is their higher demand, higher capacity saw, okay? And we've had this since it came out. It doesn't get used heavily too much, but it does come out on demo day, obviously, because it's one of their higher capacity saws and it has a lot of pros to it, but it's not without any cons. So we're gonna go over that. So let's go look at the marketing hype and then we'll bring you in closer and take a better look at it. So this right here is Makita's XRJ06. It uses two 18 volt LXT batteries to deliver the power and performance of corded recip saw without leaving the 18 volt LXT platform. The 18 volt X2 technology delivers up to 155 cuts in 2x10 SPF lumber using two 5 amp hour batteries. Makita built a 2-speed brushless motor that delivers up to 0 to 2300 on low and 0 to 3000 strokes per minute on high. It has a long 1 1/4 inch stroke for refined increased cutting efficiency, has a refined crankcase mechanism. The brushless motor obviously has no brushes, so it eliminates carbon brushes, and has a large 2-finger trigger, toolless blade chain system, electronic brake, obviously their XPT extreme protection technology engineered to resist dust and water resistance on job site conditions, has a rubberized grip handle, built-in LED light, reinforced fixed shoe, keep that in mind, it is not an adjustable shoe, has a retractable rafter hook, ergonomic design, and the saw weighs in at a whopping 10.2 pounds with just the tool only, okay? Has a 3-year limited warranty, and they always tell you to use genuine Makita batteries, okay? So that's what the marketing hype really says. So let's bring you in closer and take a better look at it, and we'll really get into that marketing hype. So obviously this right here is the left-hand part of the saw if you're holding it at the grip, okay? Pretty standard stuff going on here. Emblems, little like stickers on here saying it's brushless, but not too much really going on here. This black rubberized grip stuff here is a black overmold, and it is generally pretty comfortable. Like I said, we've had this since it came out and we've hadn't had any issues with it. This one does have a little bit more like raised edges and stuff to make it a little bit more comfortable or allow you to get a better grip on it when you are using it. The other thing I did want to point out on here, which is not common in all the recip saws, is if you look at it pretty up close right here, you can see that it really tapers off quite a bit here, and this part right here does seem a little bit more narrow than some other recip saws, okay? So like there's raised edges and stuff like that, but this part right here is actually really comfortable to use if you have like medium to small hands, right? So if you have large hands, obviously it's going to be probably more comfortable, I think, but I'll definitely say one thing that we do recognize about the saw is that this area, when you're holding it or using it and stuff like that, is a lot more comfortable for people with medium to small hands, okay? Obviously right here even has like pictures of two 18 volt LXT batteries, says in 36 volts, but other than that, not too much going on back on that part, okay? Back part, literally nothing too much going on here. Rubberized handle, it's pretty much all standard Makita stuff, okay? If you use Makita tools, any kind of other tools, I mean, you're gonna feel right at home, okay? So not too much going on there. Let's go around to this part of the saw, okay? So if you look at the right-hand part of the saw, if you're holding it at the grip, right? The rafter hook is on the right-hand side, as it is on most recip saws, okay? And it does have a rafter hook, and it goes to position. So obviously you can hang it this way, right? Like something here, or you can hang it off to the side. That is pretty interesting to point out because not all rafter hooks on recip saws will go this way, okay? So as you can probably see on here, this rafter hook has this weird curved design that kind of makes it sometimes better depending on what kind of material you work with, right? So if you're working with like metal pipes and stuff, like, I don't know, say electrician or something like that, hanging it on here is a little bit more simpler rather than a rafter hook that kind of like goes straight, right? Because it has a tendency to like fall off and stuff like that. But if you're like a carpenter and you're working on like framing and rafters and stuff like that, sometimes this gets a little bit annoying because you feel like it should be bigger to allow you to, you know, rest it or capture it on like bigger pieces of lumber. Anyways, we're just nitpicking. I just wanted to point that out. This rafter hook is pretty heavy duty, and if you did want to remove it, I guess you could remove it using removing the 2 screws, but I don't really see why anyone would want to remove that. In case, I guess you need to replace it or whatnot, you could do that. Not too much other stuff going on here. Obviously the air fins, or where the air flows, is back here, okay? But other than that, nothing too much going on this side, all right? So top part of the saw, literally not too much going on there, but the only thing to really point out here is this 2-speed mechanism, okay? So it's really like a band selection, okay? So if you push it over from the right side, like right side to the left side, it puts you on mode 1, right? So it's a slower speed, like 0 to 2300. If you push it from the left side to the right side, you're on speed 2, okay? So the higher band selection. So it has a 2-band selection. Not too many people are too concerned about that because usually people aren't trying to dial in like an exact speed or whatnot, because this variable speed trigger here is really good, okay? And this variable speed trigger is a 2-finger trigger. If you have really, really small hands, I guess you could use 3 fingers if you wanted to, but it's a 2-finger trigger. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we would bring this thing out on like a demo day, right? Demo day, obviously you're doing a lot of demo, meaning you're using a lot of recip saws, okay? So one of the things that some people just look over is like, oh, it's a 2-finger trigger, right? They just kind of glance over it. But if you're using a recip saw pretty much all day or for hours on end, the one finger you're going to be using on a 1-finger trigger, you're obviously going to get tired out, or it's going to feel a little sore or whatnot, okay? So the 2-finger trigger is very much appreciated, and it does work very well. Like I said, one of the reasons why we always bring this saw on demo day is mainly because, you know, it's comfortable to use, easy to grip, stuff like that, okay? So make sure you keep that in mind. I do have a little bit of a problem with this saw sometimes, because if you use like the really thin, you know, cloth, cotton type gloves with the nitrile covered or coated stuff, sometimes the depending on how you hold this, the little cloth pieces will get stuck going in here, and sometimes we'll have a little bit difficult releasing, but that just only happens every once in a while. One of the things I did start using is like for that kind of stuff, we'll do like a leather gloves, and you don't really have this problem. But I definitely did want to point that out, okay? So this right here is the business part of the saw, and I do have one big problem with this part of the saw, okay? The biggest problem I have with this saw is that this shoe does not go out and it does not retract in. It is a fixed shoe, okay? So you look here, there's a little screw and it's fixed. It doesn't adjust, okay? The biggest downside to that is if you have a long blade, right? You can't really maximize the life out of that blade on that. So one of the things you do with this saw is you just have to be a little bit blade conscious, right? Like this saw for us only comes out when you're doing like heavy duty stuff or like big stuff, right? So 9-inch blades, 12-inch blades, obviously this doesn't have a problem with that. But like for like smaller stuff, if I'm cutting like EMT pipe or unistrut or super strut, stuff like that, you just use like a 6-inch blade and I don't have to really worry about the shoe. But I did want to point that out because I know a lot of people use that adjustable shoe to do that. But the point on this one is it does not have an adjustable shoe. But it does, in a way, a little bit make up for that because it does have one of the best, I think, blade change systems that doesn't have like a lever action on the side, okay? So some of the recip saws obviously have a lever either on this side or this side that you pull up and snap blades in. On this saw, it actually is easier to use even without that, mainly because the way you would put it in is you just take a blade, right? Just take the blade, drop the blade in, let me change hands, drop the blade in right here, right? Just push it in and it locks in, right? No issues, okay? So even when the head, it goes in, right? The blade locking part of the mechanism is protruded in. This part is carved out enough, even with these raised edges, and even if you are wearing gloves, such that you can just take this and do that, right? And it'll come right out easily, okay? Sometimes if you do it really fast, right, it'll just pop out. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can hold it in. Every once in a while, the things popping out will get annoying. Like for instance, if you're changing the blade on a ladder or a roof or something like that, just popping out drops off. So there's pros and cons to each one, but I did want to point out that it's easy to change this blade because the knuckle, knot, lock, whatever you want to call it, stays open when you do take the blade out. And in order to put it in, bam, no problem. And it's never had an issue getting the blade falling off while it's in use, okay? If you do look right here, there is, I'm not sure how well it's gonna come out, a little light right here, LED light that does show pretty well. But other than that, there's not too much else going on with this part of the saw, okay? So let me put the batteries in. So with the batteries in, here you go. We'll take a little bit of a look at this action right here. And as you can see, the light is on. Not sure how well it's gonna come out, but it does work pretty well. And like I said, the variable speed trigger mechanism actually works really well too. I'm not sure if this saw kind of sounds like the way it does, mainly because like the gearing is or whatnot is a little bit used, mainly because we've used it quite a lot heavily. But if you take a listen to it, it sounds, I will say a little bit unnormal, okay? Right? So, I mean, like I said, this saw has definitely got a lot of use on it. We always clean it up usually before these videos and stuff like that. But haven't had any issues with it. It's always been reliable. No big problems, okay? So that's what you really get with this saw, okay? And it is a pretty nice saw and it works really well. We do really like how it feels and how it works. Not too much of an issue. It does have some type of like, they try to manage the vibrations obviously the best that they can, but it's not totally gone by any means, okay? It does have a little bit of that refined feeling, as I do talk about on a lot of the Makita tools that you'll see. It's not just like straight up raw power that you kind of feel like on some other tools, right? So that part is actually really nice, okay? The other thing to note about this is, as you can see, with the batteries in, with two of the batteries, it gets a little bit heavier to use, okay? Sometimes it helps, right, if you're just like letting the weight of the tool do the cut, which, you know, a lot of times you really should. But sometimes it's a little bit uneasy to get into certain like tight places, which is why we don't always go for it, okay? As you can see right here, I mean, just look at this, right? It's pretty much like a large flat battery if you do want to talk about it that way. But also it is a little bit taller because the batteries kind of stick out this way, and there's two of them versus, you know, ones that have something going on the back or on the side or something like that. Anyways, we're just nitpicking. That's what you get with the saw. So let's go ahead and put it on the track and we'll get some numbers and we'll be right back. So I hope y'all caught those numbers because those numbers went by really fast, okay? So just to remind you, before we go take a look at the numbers, every time we use a brand new Milwaukee X blade and we use fully charged batteries. So on this test, we use 2 fully charged 5 amp hour batteries, okay? So let's go take a look. First run came in at 10.51 seconds. Second run came in at 10.36 seconds. And the third run, user assisted run, comes in at 8.58 seconds. And the fourth run, obviously user involved, is 9.45 seconds. So if you average all 4 of those runs out, comes in at a whopping 9.73 seconds. Okay, wow. So this saw with that setup is now in second place on the leaderboard, okay? Right behind the Milwaukee Super Sawzall using the 12 amp hour or the 12 amp hour high output batteries with orbital on, okay? So the orbital off on the Super Sawzall came in at 9.88, okay? So with all that being said, 9.73 is not too far off from 9.88 or 9.34, right? You can kind of mark that in as like margin of error or whatnot. Anyways, the point is for the performance numbers, it comes in second place. So what can we say about this saw? Obviously, this is a great saw. It does have a little bit of cons or some idiosyncrasies, right? Like one thing is the blade or the shoe adjustment obviously doesn't really exist. The shoe does tilt a little bit, right? So you can tilt it, but the adjustment, like, you know, going out or coming in, that doesn't have that. The other thing is for a higher capacity saw or like a really good saw, it doesn't really have an orbital action mode. I did want to point that out because I know a lot of people look for that kind of stuff, but personally, like I said in multiple videos, I don't always use orbital action because one, it introduces usually a lot more vibrations, and two, I feel like the little bit of like seconds or whatever that may get shaved off don't really offset the vibrations that the user's going to be feeling. Especially if you're using the saw all day, I definitely want to reduce the vibration as much as possible, okay? Other than that, the saw is great. It's a really great saw, really reliable. Have never had any issues with it. Has a 2-speed thing, variable speed trigger, really nice, and everything you need to go. The other thing, as I pointed out already, this grip, actually, like I said, is because it's so thin here, it's really easy to use or really comfortable to use, even with gloves on, and if you have small to medium sized hands, okay? So, like I say in every video, even though this one is in second place, performance numbers are always great, but you can't really make a decision based on performance numbers unless that's literally all you care about, right? Is this a saw for you? I don't know. Are you in the Makita lineup? If you are and you're looking for a higher capacity saw, probably, right? Would I go buy this saw now? I'm not sure if I would go do that, because if I was looking to buy a higher capacity saw or a large saw, right, I would probably buy into like their XGT lineup, right? Because the XGT saw it's really a 36 volt saw in their 40 volt max lineup. It's pretty much almost the same saw, except it has some of the other benefits, right? It's got one single battery. It's got pretty much the same type of blade Rafter hook, but it also has like a lever for blade locking, and the chute is adjustable, right? So with that being said, they've made some of the better upgrades on this saw to make that XGT saw, right? So if you don't want to buy into the XGT platform and you want to stick on the LXT platform, obviously this is probably that saw to get. I don't know if they're going to keep it around or whatnot. I would assume that they would, because Makita doesn't always retire tools very easily. That's one thing you Makita people do appreciate about that. Anyways, the point is that this is a really nice saw, and I do still use this saw quite a bit, okay? So if you're looking for high capacity saw in their LXT lineup, obviously get this one. Other than that, hope this video helped you guys out. Stay tuned for more videos. Let me know if you have any questions or whatnot. But anyways, the point is, have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.